Hi there, this is Brett from GameByte, and today we are talking about mental health in video games. Something a bit different, I know, but it's something that we thought we should talk about, especially because at the time of recording, it is World Mental Health Day. Now, video games have been used as a form of escapism from mental health issues for years now. Obviously, many will play games even with their friends in real life or online just to feel normal sometimes, and that's absolutely fine. But what about those games that actually address mental health problems directly? Is there many of them? The answer might actually shock you, and we're just going to pick out a few that deal with mental health problems of various natures. And, you know, it would be great to hear from you in the comments if there's any more that really helped you through a difficult time, because it's good to talk about these things. Now, the first game on the list is Hellblade, a game that very much seems like an action game at first glance, but the more that you look into it, you realise that it's much more than that. It's about someone coping with psychosis and someone dealing with a loss of issues after seeing their friends and family just brutally killed because of the war that they were in. It's a very interesting game that picks a different way of sort of addressing the situation with its more third-person action combat. Life is Strange may seem like a very obvious choice for those that have played it, but for those that have not, why is it on this list? And it deals with a lot of different little situations in mental health during the course of the 5 episodes, but there's one particular part which definitely hits home the hardest, and that is a part at the end of the 2nd episode of the game. Now, depending on how you've played the game, you've built up a friendship with one of the characters who has gone through some fairly traumatizing times, so much so that it comes to a head and she decides that she wants to take her own life. And depending on how you've played the game and how much attention you've played, you can try and talk her away from doing that. And it's something that had a big impact on a lot of people. And I think one thing that definitely helped it have such of an impact is because it stripped away one of the key mechanics of the game, which was rewinding time, and made it so you had to make the choices you made and there was no going back. If you had messed up on this, you know, she was gone. And for many, that hurt, especially at the time of the episodes coming out individually. When it was one completed package, obviously people got closure by the end of the game, but that point there and then was such a well done piece on not just dealing with someone who is suicidal, but also understanding why people are suicidal and the post-traumatic stress that is caused after someone has committed suicide. When it comes to horror games, many of them do deal with mental health issues, but some of them sort of use it as a plot device and it comes across as a bit hokey. And to be fair, that's sort of what has happened with Silent Hill over the years, but one of their games is on the list for a very specific reason, and that is Silent Hill Shattered Memories. And what you did in this game is basically the plot of the first game, but it was broken up by all these small individual parts which were then broken up by talking to a psychologist, and the psychologist would ask you some questions, and some of them you could tell were just sort of changing the shape of the story so you can have these multiple endings, but they were also questions that made you think, and if you were inclined, made you answer truthfully, and it was something that made you actually ask questions about yourself, which, depending on your mindset at the time, could be a good thing or a bad thing. It's definitely a risky thing to be doing, but it's something that was used in that game as more than just a cheap, let's try and make you scared at different things. Now, the Persona franchise has existed for many years now, and one thing that you see as a reoccurring theme in the games is people dealing with their inner thoughts and sort of accepting that, yes, this is part of me, I have these negative thoughts, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with these negative thoughts that aren't what I put on as a persona. Name of the game. And the fact that this deals with it in quite a fun way a lot of the time, you know, the stories and characters that are in the games are normally well written, and they're a lot of fun to play. Obviously, if you're not a fan of Japanese RPGs, you may have never experienced these, but there's a reason why the franchise has grown so popular, and it's the fact that it delivers not just great combat, but a great story that makes you think about yourself and makes you think about the characters that are there as well, and each of them deal with different problems that the others might, or even you might not, and it makes you just take a second to think about these things, which is a really nice touch. Now, wrapping up the list is a game called Firewatch, a indie game that some may enjoy, some may not. It really does depend on the type of person that you are, but it doesn't sort of mince around when it comes to making a point that yes, this is a game that looks very pretty, but it's also a game that will deal with some pretty heavy things. Within the first 20 minutes alone, you find out about the fact that your wife has early onset dementia, and this has driven a distance between the lead character and his wife, but so much of a distance that his wife has basically been taken away from him. This woman that he has loved for years has been taken away from him, and rather than standing there accepting that he's not going to let this happen, he just lets it happen. He lets his wife get taken away and decides to take this job of just being in the countryside and keeping an eye out in Firewatch towers for people that are doing naughty things or trying to litter and stuff like that. He tries to escape from his problems by going into the countryside, but all this does is give him time to actually dwell on them. And through various conversations through the game and other bits and pieces, you can address these problems and see the inner workings of someone that has tried to run away and not accept that maybe he does need to actually address what's happening in front of him. Now, this is by no means a definitive list of the best games that deal with mental health, because there's no real best in this world. There's plenty more out there that also address the situation in a variety of genres. You've got games like Actual Sunlight, Depression Quest, Darkest Dungeon, Neverending Nightmares, and Papa and Yo, and they all address it in different ways, and it's not just them dealing with depression, it can be them dealing with anxiety, with OCD, with a huge range of things that can affect people. And I think a lot of the time that people think that mental health is just depression and that's it, but there's so much offshoots and so much of a way to educate yourself through playing games. But don't forget, at the same time, you can also escape by playing games. If you're feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, then maybe just put on a game and have a bit of fun. Just try and forget, and if you can't forget, that's fine as well. Like, there is nothing wrong with needing help. Make sure to check the description for links to various outlets if you need to talk about mental health problems. And thank you very much for watching. I've been Brett Claxton. You've been wonderful. Goodbye.